Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of volumes 1 through 3 of Cursed Scroll for the Shadowdark role-playing game from the Arcane Library. These are written by Kelsey Dion, and each of the 60-plus page zines with PDFs carry an MSRP of $14.99, or you can grab just the PDFs alone for $8.99 each. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the first volume of Cursed Scroll. Before we dive on in, do want to mention that Kelsey Dion was kind enough to provide me with these review copies, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's very important, you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of these zines, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. Also, each of these volumes does have a hex crawl as well as an adventure. I'm going to try to stay as spoiler-free as possible. If you are a player and your game master is running Shadowdark, maybe they've picked up one or all of these Cursed Scrolls, definitely recommend tune out now. You don't want some of the surprises ruined simply because you were watching this video. Lastly, I am going to share a single review score for these 3 zines. So it is an overall score for all 3 as opposed to sharing an individual review score for each of the 3. So I want to point that out as well. This first volume is titled Diablerie because the theme is demons and demonic things, and each of these zines will have a theme. So the second volume is Desert Adventures. The third volume is Seagoing Vikings. So let's jump on in because the first thing you're going to find in each one of these volumes is a hex crawl. And even though they're presented as mini hex crawls, there's a lot going on in these hexes. You're going to find the hex keys later in the zine, but here we get kind of a discussion of what is this area. We get rumors, we get encounter zones, and then the encounters within those zones. So each of these zines will have a hex crawl. Each of the zines also features some new classes. In this first volume, we have a cursed knight, a warlock, and a witch. Got the Knight of St. Idris. And if you're familiar with Shadowdark, everything is concise, to the point. We're not looking at big info dumps that you have to wade through to get to the important things. Nope. Get all the information we need right there. We get our talents as well as which spells are known by this cursed knight. And they actually don't get to learn the spell until 3rd level. We also have the warlock, and then we have the witch. So we also have new spells, which I thought were very cool. We get some new patrons. So the warlock has a patron. And we've got Mugdalblub, who is a demon. They're actually featured in the adventure at the end of this zine too. So we've got the patrons there, diabolical mishaps, and then we will jump on into the new spells. And there are quite a lot of new spells. Once again, get a couple of sentences, the quick stat block, and you're good to go. Unlike other fantasy role-playing games where you have pages upon pages devoted to a single spell, here, the Soul Jar, that's about as detailed as it gets. This is about as verbose as you're going to find with about 3 paragraphs. We get some new monsters, too. So here's that hex key for our hex crawl. But we also get into some monsters. Now, one of the drawbacks I feel for Shadowdark is the monster blocks are very, very small, very short. I would like a little bit more info on how to make these stand out at the game table. It's not terrible, but you do have to kind of sit there and decipher the attribute scores to kind of get a better feel for how to run them. I would personally just like maybe a little more information about the monsters. Then we're going to get into our adventure. This is an adventure for first level characters. So as you can see, these entries are concise, to the point. We've got bullet points. There's Muggle-blub. And I got to say, cartography is really cool. So this is our first volume. Next volume is Red Sands. So the focus here is on desert adventuring. We are going to have a desert rider. We get a pit fighter. And then we also get an assassin. But here is our Hex Crawl for this volume. Once again, the rumors, encounter zones, and encounters. We're going to jump on into the character classes. So there's the Desert Rider, Pit Fighter, and Ras Godai, which is sort of an assassin. Then in the second volume and third volume, we will actually get some new rules. So we do have pit fighting. We have enduring wounds. So if a player character is brought to 0 hit points, but they survive, they have to roll on the enduring wounds. I like this quite a lot. Get some new rules for poisons. Then we'll get our keyed hexes for our Hex Crawl. Some new monsters. So these are sort of desert themed. Now, they're not all monsters. We do have animals. We do have NPCs as well. Then we get a relatively higher level adventure than we've probably seen previously with some of the Shadowdark releases. This is for 4th to 6th level adventurers, which I got to be honest, I'm glad to see, because for the most part, some of the Shadowdark releases I've seen from even third-party publishers are low level. So nice to see something that's going to go kind of mid-level here. So once again, we get all of the keyed locales, bullet points, getting right into the nitty-gritty, making this really easy for your game master to run at the table. And then this is actually 2 levels. Very nice. Like this quite a lot. Then we have the third issue, which is Midnight Sun. And this focuses on Vikings or Nordic adventuring. So here is the Hex Crawl we get here, the Isles of Andric. We only have 2 new classes here, as opposed to the 3 that we've seen prior. We got the Sea Wolf, who is a raider. And then we have the Seer, which we will have new spells for the Seer as well. Like that quite a lot. Then we start getting into some Nordic flavor and some discussion of the old gods. So Odin, Freya, and Loki. We have new rules. So we have new rules for boats and new gear. We get some new weapons too in this. Then we get a really short kind of 1-pager here for the Wardwick Monastery. So this is kind of an example of a location which would be raided. Then we get into our new spells. We get into our keys for our hexes, the sea dragon, the sea caves, some new monsters. And then we get into a 0-level gauntlet adventure for Shadowdark. If you're not overly familiar with gauntlet adventures, the players will have multiple characters. They tend to be a bit of a meat grinder, and the characters who survive become the player characters. So as you can see, there's actually quite a lot going on in this adventure. I think this has probably got the most moving parts out of the 3 adventures in these zines. And then, of course, here we've got the map for the adventure. All in all, really nicely done. Gotta say, artwork throughout these zines is well presented. I want to make sure we give some folks some credit for the artwork here, because I kind of skipped past that. So just want to make sure the cartography, which is Cameron Moss, and the different artists as well. Blake Davis is one of them. Dean Spencer, it looks like. And then volume 1 as well. There we go. Sweet. And for the most part, the writing is all done by Kelsey Dion. I think she makes mention of some folks who have helped out in some of the other volumes here. So those are the 3 current volumes that are available for Cursed Scroll. And let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts and give these a review score. If you saw my review for Shadowdark, you know I really like Shadowdark. I think it is an excellent introduction to the old school Renaissance for gamers who might only be used to playing, say, 5e, Dungeons & Dragons, maybe even Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Like it a lot. I love the fact that it doesn't drone on and on. Everything is pretty concise. Everything's to the point. You can find information very quickly. You don't have to page back and forth because things are lost within the rule book or even in these zines. These adventures, these hex crawls that are in each of these zines are very easily navigated by the game master. Yes, I do wish that there was more information about monsters and using those monsters at the table. It's a pretty small quibble. A lot of this can be utilized with other OSR retro clones out there, even if they're not using a D20 sort of roll high system. You could easily port this over to other, say, BX retro clones and things of that sort. So a lot of value in these zines. All the adventures, really well done. Very easy to run at the table, as I've mentioned previously. And the hex crawls are very interesting too. So a lot of value in every single one of these zines. So all 3 together, on a scale of 0 to 10, I give a 9 out of 10. They are that good. I got to be honest, if you're not a fan of Shadowdark, these zines are not going to change your opinion. But thankfully, I'm a big fan of Shadowdark, and I think these fit in really, really nicely to that core rulebook. Got to point out, I think these only come out on a yearly basis. I wish there were more zines to get our hands on. But the 3 that are available are really, really well done and should be part of your collection if you are into the OSR. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It will not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.